Alrighty, so today I'm going to put myself on the spotlight. Today I'm going to show you how I contribute to climate change as an environmental engineer. I know, right? It's so controversial. It's so against what you're supposed to do. Like, my sole job is to prevent this, right? I'm practically getting paid to do this, but I'm still failing at it. And I'm going to show you in which aspects. So if you don't already know, climate change is like a serious problem, and it's only going to get worse if you don't do anything about it. The issue is that we're just releasing more greenhouse gases than is like natural. So we humans, like, we're intervening by just like pumping up more carbon dioxide or more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and then that's just absorbing more heat. I don't really want to go into the science of it, but overall that's just causing things like maybe extreme droughts in like already dry places, or stronger storms in already places that have storms, more flooding than is normal in like already rainy parts of the area. So overall we're just like increasing the intensity of things that are already happening. It's not good because you want to avoid deaths and destruction and all that stuff. Yes, there has been some like intervention with some government countries trying to like reduce their footprint, but it's not taken super seriously in like those large countries. So here in the United States, we're not taking a serious effort into stopping what we're doing, even though we're like a large contributor to it. So as a US citizen, an environmental engineer, and someone who knows for a fact that the United States is like contributing a large amount of this greenhouse gas pollution, I will show you how I myself am contributing also. Overall, I know that I'm the problem too. It's not easy to like admit your wrongdoing. People don't really like to admit their faults or their flaws, but that's really like the first step into change. You just gotta admit that you're wrong. Once you admit that you're wrong and you know that what you're doing is wrong, then you can finally take the next step towards like actually changing what you know is wrong about yourself. But before I begin, I don't want to like admit the obviously dumb routes on how to fix things. So straight up, let's just be honest here. When you breathe out air, you're breathing out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is like a greenhouse gas. That doesn't mean that we should just stop people from like breathing. Okay, don't be unreasonably dumb here, okay? Alright, with that, now let's move on. So here's a list of all the things I'm doing wrong. First of all, I contribute because I drive a car. So here in the United States, it's sort of impossible unless you're really in a dense city to maneuver or go around places without having a car. Just the fact that you own a car, that I own a car, it meant that that car had to go through some processes that also release some pollution or greenhouse gases. So just me buying a car meant that I bought something that already polluted the world, and then as I continue to drive the car, going like 40 miles every single day here to work, that adds up to a lot of air pollution and a lot of greenhouse gases overall. So me just going to my work, my job, which is supposed to be an environmental engineer, just the process of me going to work, getting paid to work, I'm already going against what I'm like supposed to be doing. Isn't that just so weird? The only way I can sort of justify this is that I had a Prius, so it's not as polluting as all the other cars, but that doesn't really justify it that much. For as long as I own this car, and for as long as I drive to work, I'm really just damaging the environment. But I understand that, and that's where I'm going to change that. The next topic on how I contribute to climate change is that I eat meat. So I'm not a vegetarian. I like to eat meat, but I just know and I understand that agriculture itself is a very large contributor to climate change. And there are a lot of statistical, scientific facts about this, okay? Just don't get all angry saying that I'm like shoving down veganism or vegetarianism down your throat. Just understand like this is a scientific fact, and I understand that, but some people, you can't just stop someone's lifestyle just because you throw down some facts on them. So overall, like agriculture itself, just like a farm, if you're like trying to farm some cows, it requires a lot of farmland because you want some cows to have some room to maneuver a little bit. They require a lot of farmland, and they also release a lot of methane because they're just like chewing their grass and they're burping a lot and farting a lot. And overall, like the method of that is not really efficient. So what we could have done is just like use that extra farmland. Instead of like grazing cows, you could just grow some corn or grow some whatever vegetable crops and feed your population. So that's where the inefficiency comes from. Instead of using land for one thing, you're using land for another thing that's releasing greenhouse gases. And also because you're not like growing plants, then the plants don't absorb the carbon dioxide. So it's really just like a double whammy in that aspect. Overall, what I'm trying to say is that I'm the problem here because I'm eating meat. It's because like they have to grow the cows for me to consume the cows. So I am making them grow their cows. I'm making them, pollute the world because I like to eat them. But that being said though, once I understood that, once I realized that I should probably not eat too many cows so I don't have to grow so much cows for my enjoyment, then that's where I can change. So I've made an effort to reduce my meat consumption. You don't have to like quit cold turkey, you just have to lower that amount. And now I just choose meats that are like less damaging to the environment. So instead of maybe eating beef every single week, you can just reduce that to like chicken every single week, because chickens are like smaller and they don't require as much land space as a cow. Overall, just like limiting your consumption, it'll make a difference. And there are some other health benefits too to reducing red meat. Again, I'm not trying to go scientific on you, I'm just trying to show you the facts and show you that I am the problem and that I'm trying to change some of it. The next big thing is that I still rely off of plastic. So something like this right here, these small little grocery bags from the grocery store, I mean, they're everywhere. You can't really go to any grocery store and like not see any sort of plastic wrapping or plastic container in what you want to buy. So say for example, I just want to buy like a bag of chips. Well, that bag of chips is like wrapped in a plastic bag. Or say I want to buy like a whole chicken. Well, that whole chicken, it's sort of wrapped inside like styrofoam with some plastic wrap around it. Literally everything that you buy, it's like always wrapped in some sort of container, whether plastic or glass or styrofoam. I mean, I try to reuse my grocery bags. I try to reuse that plastic bag for when I go and buy like any sort of fruit that I need to contain. But sometimes the bag rips. Sometimes you might have to get a new bag. Overall, it's just that you have to bag almost everything. Even if you do use a reusable bag, realize that reusable bag is also made out of plastic. So you'd have to reuse that bag many times in order to eventually break even and get your money's worth, or like get that environmental benefit of reusing the same bag over and over again. It's just hard because it's everywhere and you can't avoid it. And so leading on to the next part, sort of goes hand with this plastic consumption, is that I produce trash. So when you buy your bag of chips and then you finish the bag of chips, you gotta throw away your plastic bag because I mean no one's gonna reuse that plastic bag of Cheetos. You can't go to the store and like tell them to recycle it and then let them like stuff more Cheetos inside your bag and then just eat from the same bag. No, you gotta throw it away. You gotta landfill that. But really, once you throw that bag away, I mean that trash has to go somewhere, right? You throw it in the garbage bin, you think, out of sight, out of mind, but that's not the case. Yes, you don't see it, but that doesn't mean it just disappears out of nowhere. It goes somewhere. Someone else has to handle your trash. So once it travels its way down like your city and then they pick up the trash, it goes to a landfill, and then that landfill, because everything is just trash in there, whether it's food or just things that you can't consume, that also produces things like methane and just other sort of potentially harmful greenhouse gases. And it sucks because collectively, all of us, whether you produce a small amount of trash or a big amount of trash, it still piles up into one little or one large landfill, and that just creates its own like soup of greenhouse gases that's like polluting and hurting the world. So whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, I am also contributing because I put that piece of trash into the trash can and then I can't really do anything about it. So in the end, I am aware of my flaws. I am aware that I am relying on plastics, that I'm producing trash, that I have a car, and that overall I'm like contributing to the detrimental effects of the world. Why am I saying this? It's because I know that I'm doing this. If I have that mindset where I know what I'm doing is wrong, then the normal, right human being way of addressing a problem is to, one, admit that you're wrong, and then try to fix what you're doing. So I'm putting myself on the spotlight because you would think that some environmentalists would be like living a perfectly clean life. No, that's not the case. Even what they're doing is not perfect. And I'm pointing out all my flaws because I don't want you to think that I'm all high and mighty judging people who are like doing this, because I know I'm a hypocrite too. So now that I've admitted it, at least now I can take the next step forward and like avoid it. So I've already said that I'm going to be eating less meat. I can just, not produce so much trash. I can reuse wherever I can. Really, the only thing I can do is just lessen the burden. So long as one person tries it and then they can influence other people, then everyone else can have a large impact. So overall, if you're watching this video, you don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm just here to point out my flaws, and I know that I'm going to be taking the next step to correct myself. But if you got inspired, then, just join me in my journey. Again, you don't have to do it. I'm just here to admit that I'm wrong, and you're gonna watch me proceed as I try to impact this. Of all things, hopefully just open your eyes towards like what you are doing wrong too. But again, it's up to you whether or not you want to make a change. All I know is that I'm going to do it. Alright, that's all I have. Goodbye.